Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Today, we're going to go over a new development opportunity in Delaware County, New York, which is sort of one county north of Sullivan County and to the west of Greene County. And we'll take a look at that on the map. And I'm going to navigate to this development opportunity the same way you would be able to on any of ours if you come to our site. Open up the nav, go to developments, go to see all. And this one is Brook Road. Here we go. Let me open that up. Let me just position us a little bit. So zooming out, here we are looking at Brook Road, zooming all the way out. You can see New York City, see the Hudson River, you can see the Delaware River on the other side, and zooming in, start to see some of the Catskills coming into view with a really great position for this property, which is in the small little hamlet or town of Denver, New York. But the major towns nearby are Margaretville, Roxbury, Prattsville, Wyndham. And for anyone out there who is a skier, we're close to Wyndham. We're close to Pine Hill, which is Bel Air. And then if we head over this way a little bit, close to Hunter. And then going the other direction, maybe you know the town of Andes or Andes, depending on who you're talking to, Bovina, the Papacton Reservoir, which is really, really beautiful. It's where New York City gets 60-70% of its water. And then zooming out a little bit, we have all of the high peaks of the Great Northern Catskills, and then much of the Catskills Park just south of this location. So a really fantastic destination, and I would kind of position it within the northern foothills of the Catskills. So heading back to our Brook Road development opportunity. So as I mentioned, this is really in the eastern corner of Delaware County. Big towns nearby are Margaretville and Roxbury, both within 10-12 minute drives. Both have proper restaurants and great coffee shops and kind of depth of culture and things to engage in. But when you arrive at this parcel, it really feels like you're in a sort of, it feels like you're out there. You've kind of driven through the foothills, you get kind of broad mountain views. The self-service is a little light, and which more and more I'm seeing as an amenity rather than a problem, and a real benefit of creating a getaway. And so let's look at what our plan would be for this parcel. So like all of our development opportunities, you can see some of the key stats up front. The total acreage is about 6 acres. We see this as a really fantastic rental property. We imagine building it with a number of structures, including a cottage ADU, a modified small bar as one of our standards, along with a custom sauna. The process here would be to acquire the lot, entitle, improve it, and build it, with a total hard cost of around $630,000, including acquisition, and the goal of being able to produce equity after construction around $117,000, $120,000, with a goal of producing multiple streams of revenue on this property for both groups, and have multiple for larger groups and multiple people being able to rent simultaneously. And the difficulty scale on this developing this property is relatively low. And so I just want to stop here for a second, because some projects that we look at, larger lots, are one where there's maybe like a stream crossing to begin with, or there's some wetlands to contend with. There's an enormous amount of value to be unlocked in going through the exercise of developing the place, but it's going to take a while. You're going to be dealing with multiple agencies, whether it's DEP, EPA, DEC, the local town. Maybe you're also contending with New York City to be able to get your septic built. There's all kinds of agencies you might need to deal with, or land conditions or topographic challenges you might have to contend with. This one we see is pretty ready to go, has really great road access. It has power right at the front of the site. It has some already cleared areas and some flat areas. And so while it has water running through it which is really like an amenity, it's a relatively easy place to imagine how we would implement this vision. So here's the location. Again, sort of in this simplified map, looking at Brook Road, where you would drive up the thruway if you're coming from New York City. You'd be kind of smack dab in between the Delaware and Hudson rivers in the kind of center of just north of the Catskills, and right at that around 2-hour 45-minute mark from New York City. What's really nice in this location is you end up with larger parcels, very light development. It's extremely quiet and just stunningly beautiful. If you haven't made your way to Delaware County before, I highly recommend it. So here's a view from the lot, which is about as picturesque as it gets. You have a couple of farmhouses dotting the landscape, and in the distance, you get ridgeline views in the one direction. If we were looking to the right in this image, we would see more of the high peaks of the Catskills. Here's a view on the approach to the property with some stone walls running through and great deciduous trees and leaf cover. And so the first step on this project would be acquisition. And here's the lot that you would be acquiring. And so let me come back to, before we get here, come back to my Google Maps view and zoom all the way in. So this is Brook Road. It's a small 2-track managed gravel road where the parcel here extends from the Batavia Kill, which is a known trout stream, up to either side of this elbow in Brook Road. One side of the lot is cleared, one side is wooded, and it's bisected by a creek that runs through. And so here you can see that in our aerial imagery where the 2-track gravel road is turned. One side of the lot on the way down to the Batavia Kill is wooded. The other side is already cleared. And here our illustrated look where we have a small brook running through the Brook Road parcel, leading down to the stream of Batavia Kill, and an open field on one side, woods on the other, and a stone wall kind of marking the right side boundary. And so this lot has a lot of the things we always look for. It has diversity of landscape, that has forested areas, it has field areas, possibilities for meadow. It has a water feature, and in this case, really two, a proper trout stream along with a brook that we're going to show some of how we would imagine manipulating this a bit, and some history that those stone walls are at the edge of that open field because when they first tilled this field, they cleared the land, removed all of the flagstone, and then piled it up 150, 200 years ago to mark the lot boundary. And that stone wall still remains. And we always like to be able to see like a historical element, a water feature, some remarkable views, and diversity of natural features. And this lot has all of those in spades. So like all of our development opportunities, we think about it both in terms of what's the vision of the place. How do we go through a remarkable placemaking exercise to create a unique destination, but at the same time pair it with real development math. What is it really going to take to get this done? And how do we make sure that we're developing something that can be equity positive? And in the case of renting, that it could be cash flow positive, that it could rent for more than the carrying cost of building it. And so in this case, we would acquire the land for around $110,000. We would go through a due diligence effort to evaluate the parcel, making sure that making 100% sure that we're able to do exactly what we're We are proposing here that these streams, while they are in the New York City watershed, that they're not causing any development issues for us, either on constructing a septic or gaining access to the parcel. And so all told, you would acquire the lot for $110,000 plus some HUTS service fees. The next stage would be moving into groundwork and site planning. And so here we want to take advantage of the two sides of the parcel, the wooded side with the stream and the open field area. And we would initially site kind of two areas. So first is providing circulation infrastructure, so driveways and access to the parcel. We'd provide a parking pull-off for one area. We'd expand our turnaround at that elbow in Brook Road, and then create a roundabout that meets municipal standards at the far end of the lot, cutting through that stone wall, creating a sense of arrival that you're kind of coming through this historical artifact to enter into this new parcel. And so our design concept here is that we'd really have two areas. We'd have a larger main house, still be quite small, about a modified small bar for us with kind of sleeps 4. And then an ADU plus sauna kind of wellness destination. That this is really where some of our design acrobatics are happening, where we're engaging with the stream. So site the parcel, we would pull in power, build the septic, pull in the driveway, and go through all the land improvements that in a land development project represent one of those big bumps up in value, that you acquire the lot and then you invest in improving it with driveway, septic, well, power, and now you have a build ready lot. You've kind of changed the determination of this parcel from a raw lot into an improved lot, which also has a big impact on the assessment and appraised value of the parcel, which is reflected here in phase 1 groundwork and site planning. So in this case, we would build our driveway, we'd retool the stone wall a bit, we'd run electrical from the existing pole, we'd install the septic system, we'd drill the well, and HUTS would manage that effort to execute each of these. And so now you have purchased the lot, you've improved the lot to the tune of around $88,000, but now you're starting to create value and producing around 15% equity on top of your investment thus far, with an anticipated kind of post-improvement value of around $235,000, yielding a $31,000 expected equity. Okay, so then phase 2 is kind of a first piece of going vertical, starting to build out the development with a cabin and a sauna over the brook. And so we have the brook, which runs straight through the lot. We've got our small walking paths from the driving roundabout and from the parking pull-off to create foot access to this platform that we imagine building that spans over the brook and creates this sort of wellness platform where we would bring together our cottage ADU 10 by 20, our 10 by 10 sauna, and dig out from the existing brook a wider and deeper area and line it with found stone to create a swimming hole. And you end up with the brook uphill, kind of babbling through, pooling underneath of the bridged over deck area, and then continuing on into the Batavia Kill with a very small span going across. The stream is only a couple feet wide uphill, so it's not like a giant engineering feat that we're kind of spanning across. It's really having 2 posts on either side and then extending that deck through, making sure it's high enough that it's not a flood risk. But I think it creates this really incredible soundscape. When you'd be there, you'd have this sort of relationship between going from the ADU over to the sauna, and then being able to take a small cold plunge and a natural cold plunge from a what's essentially a mountain-fed stream. And this is really the design intent of this area, and it's utilizing our standards, so we really understand the pricing, but it's taking those ingredients and thinking about how they can be applied creatively in this remarkable setting. Okay, so phase two, now we're moving into creating a cabin over the water, where we'd have our cottage ADU with a build cost of around $120,000, the decking and some of the landscaping for this pool area around $45,000, the sauna at $30,000. We have some structural engineering fees and HUTS design and development fees. So this phase would end up being around $215,000 to build the deck, ADU, sauna, natural cold plunge. And now you have your land that you've acquired. You have the groundwork and site planning, both for this area and the next phase of development. And this great wellness platform, taking advantage of the existing brook at a total cost of around $418,000, with a projected value after construction teetering up towards around 500 grand, producing around $73,000 in stored equity. Okay, let's go on to the next piece, which is to create a house with a view. And so if our first area, this wellness platform, is in the woods, it's really about being sort of among the deciduous trees, kind of under the canopy in a forest setting. The other side is about taking advantage of the southern views towards the high peaks of the Catskills in the existing cleared area. And so here we imagine building a modified small bar, which is a pretty stout structure that has one ground floor bedroom and then a loft area above. You can kind of squeeze 6 in if you're utilizing a sleeper sofa, but it's really designed for 4 or less. So great for a small family, great for couples. And that small bar would fit in that existing cleared area, being positioned towards the view towards the mountains in the distance. And so this gives a larger space that, with a very different experience than the wooded brook area, that could be stayed in separately, could be rented separately, could all be rented together. Maybe it's your house and you're just renting the cottage ADU, but it gives a lot of flexibility for how you utilize this parcel. And again, real difference in experience to be able to offer the kind of mountain view from the meadow and the forest area with these kind of wellness amenities over the brook. So here you see we're building a small house that with a view in phase 3. And we always think about our house costs in a couple of buckets: the shell costs and the finishes and fixtures. Generally, your shell costs end up being around 70% of the overall construction cost, which is reflected here. We're using a multiple of around $325 per square foot to build this space, or about $150,000 to build the shell, plus around $45,000 on fixtures and finishes. We'd have a structural engineering fee and HUTS design and development fee for permitting materials, construction documentation, and managing the build. And so this next house is built at a similar cost of around $215,000. So we've got the land that you've acquired, we have the improvement costs, we have the wellness platform, and the small additional house all being built out and developed at a cost of around $635,000, with a post-construction value that we see of around $750,000, producing about 18% stored equity at the post-construction. And then on the rental side, if you chose to go this way, using some rough math, for this destination, we imagine this cottage ADU demanding an annualized rate of around $300 per night. Let's assume you're getting 60 nights a month, which would be you'd be doing quite well, but it's in line with how we tend to estimate on the revenue side, with the opportunity to produce around $6,000 a month. You'd have high seasons and low seasons here, but what's really nice about this location is it's a true 4-season rental destination that in the winter, because you're so close to Bel Air and Wyndham and Hunter, you'll have ski rentals and sort of would call it like those interested in kind of the Nordic cycle, with cold plunge, sauna, those sort of wellness amenities. In the fall, you saw from the site photos, obviously you have kind of leaf peepers and those taking in autumn activities. Summer would also be a major draw, with kind of natural pool and setting under the forest. Spring is probably your low season here, but even in this location, it's one of the times where the brook and the stream would be running kind of the most full. And you'll also get sort of folks on kind of fly fishing trips or looking to be able to kind of fish from the front yard on Batavia Kill. A really great 4-season destination. And then on the modified small bar, similarly looking at this as an alternative to nearby hotels or other larger properties. So let's say, you want to go skiing, but don't want to stay at, say, with you and it's your family of 4. And instead of renting, say, like the big suite at Scribner's for $1,100 a night, someone may rent this instead for $325 a night, which seems quite reasonable in comparison. So start adding that up and look at a projected revenue amount if you're using this full-time as a rental of around $150,000, which gives you essentially a payback period on the construction cost of 4 years, which is pretty phenomenal for a rental property like this. So you can see all of the kind of development math here, and then the completed vision of this property, where you turn off the main road onto the really bucolic 2-track shale-covered road, either pull off into the forest pull off or continue down in the roundabout, have a series of trails connecting the main house and the wellness platform into one place that has diversity of landscape, surrounded by water, has great big views, and is really only 10-15 minutes from pretty phenomenal towns. And so that is the vision that we have for Brook Road in Denver, New York, and Delaware County. Let me stop there and open it up to questions. You can just use the Q&A dialogue and type in your questions, and I'll try and answer them as best I can. And let me stop here because I think this sketch, I think, encapsulates a lot of the game plan for what we would hope to accomplish in this location. Any questions out there? Samantha asked, can I show images of phase 3? Yes, I would say this is probably the best example of that this is small bar in the field, and then some photos taken from site and just kind of superimpose them into that interior shot of our small bar. And this is really what that experience should feel like once you're there. Amy asked, what's the general turnaround time for start to finish? Amy, I would account for a year from acquisition through to completion. Is the sauna equivalent to the little cottage? Yeah, Michael, that's right. It's a 10 by 10 modified for use as a sauna, which is something that we've done in a number of locations. Allison asked, can you tell me what material is the driveway made of with this estimate? This would be crushed gravel with a finish layer on top. So that's sort of what we recommend almost everywhere where you have this sort of area of almost 120-degree temperature swing throughout the year. So if you get into anything paved or anything more rigid, you're gonna get a lot of cracking. And it's also just kind of like undermines some of the country feel of the place. And so I think that that crushed gravel works really well. Generally, we use the rule of thumb figure of around $7,500 for every 100 feet of driveway that we're proposing or building as a way to estimate those gravel driveway costs. We come back down to here. Michael asks, is there an image on your website of the back? Yes. If you head to the ADU section go to standards, go to ADU, and you'll see bathroom images there. If you also go to YouTube, our /HUTS NYC, you can see a walkthrough of an ADU in full to be able to see what that bathroom layout is on our cottage ADU. Incidentally, this video will also be up on our YouTube channel, which I recommend following along on. All of our webinars are there. Ongoing construction documentation of current projects is there. It's becoming a richer and richer resource for us and our clients to be able to see the things that we're up to and see them happening in real time. Okay, any other questions before I wrap it up? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, thank you everyone so much for joining and giving me the opportunity to walk through our vision for Brook Road. It's a really exciting place with a really exciting potential. And I think, and hopefully it came across that this is a place you would want to be quite respectful of and develop lightly, not cut it up, not develop a bunch of big houses, that we're listening to the land and trying to figure out how to take advantage as much as possible of what's already there and the magic that is already baked into the property. So if this development opportunity or any is interesting to you, please do scroll down to the bottom of this page, fill out the form here, and we'll be back in touch as soon as we possibly can to talk around what next steps could be, whether it's here at Brook Road or something like this in another location that's more your speed. We're excited to hear your ideas and figure out how HUTS can help you design and develop them. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, everyone.